Little Johnny went on a camping trip, but all the tents were taken, so he had to share with his teacher. That night, Johnny asked, "Can I play with your belly button?" "My mom always lets me when we camp." The teacher, confused but curious, said, Sure?" 5 minutes later, she gasped, "Johnny!" "That's not my belly button." Johnny calmly replied, "Yeah, and that's not my finger." After an amazing love with his girlfriend, Kevin remembered he had a dentist appointment. He was afraid that the dentist would smell pussy on his breath, so he brushed his teeth 7 times, and on top of that, 2 liters of mouthwash. As he arrived at the dentist, he chewed 5 strong mints, too. The dentist told him to take a seat. Feeling confident and relaxed, he opened his mouth wide. The dentist got close enough and said, "Man, did you have a love before you came here?" Kevin, shocked, says, "Why, no!" "Does my breath smell like pussy?" The dentist says, "No, but your forehead smells like ass." A grandmother is giving directions to her grown grandson who is visiting with his wife. When you arrive at the front door of the apartment complex, I'm in apartment 14T. There's a big panel by the door. Use your elbow to press the button for 14T. I'll buzz you in. Once inside, the elevator is on your right. Get in and use your elbow to press 14. When you exit, my apartment is on the left. Use your elbow to press my doorbell. Grandma, I know my way, but why am I using my elbow to press all these buttons? Are you coming empty-handed? 3 men were discussing aging at the nursing home. 60 is the worst age to be, said the 60-year-old. You always feel like you have to pee, and most of the time, you stand at the toilet and nothing comes out. Ah, that's nothing, said the 70-year-old. When you're 70, you can't even crap anymore. You take laxatives, eat bran, you sit on the toilet all day and nothing comes out. Actually, said the 80-year-old, 80 is the worst age of all. Do you have trouble peeing too? Asked the 60-year-old. No, not really. I pee every morning at 6 o'clock. I pee like a racehorse on a flat rock, no problem at all. Do you have trouble crapping? No, I crap every morning at 6:30. With great exasperation, the 60-year-old said, "Let me get this straight. You pee every morning at 6 and crap every morning at 6:30. So what's so tough about being 80? I don't wake up until 7 o'clock. A guy is driving when suddenly his car runs out of gas. Just then, a bee buzzes in through the window. "Hey, what's going on?" asks the bee. "Out of gas," the guy replies. The bee says, "Hang tight," and zooms off. A few minutes later, the guy sees a whole swarm of bees fly over and dive right into his gas tank. After a little while, the bees fly away. "Go ahead, give it a try," says the bee. The guy turns the key and the car starts perfectly. "Wow, what did you put in my tank?" he asks. The bee grins and says, "BP." People often complain about the police, but you rarely hear about the positive things they do, such as this incident involving a biker and a frozen carburetor. Last year, on a bitterly cold winter's day, a motorcycle cop on patrol came upon a motorcyclist who was stalled by the roadside. The biker was swathed in heavy protective clothing and wearing a full-face helmet to protect the face from the cold weather. "What's the matter?" asked the cop. "Carburetor's frozen," was the terse reply. "Piss on it, that'll thaw it out." "I can't," said the biker. "Okay, watch me closely and I'll show you." The cop unzipped and promptly warmed the carburetor as promised. Moments later, the bike started and the rider drove off, waving. A few days later, the local police station received a note of thanks from the father of the motorcyclist. It began, "On behalf of my daughter Jill." A man owned a small ranch in Montana. One day, the labor department got a tip that he wasn't paying proper wages to his employees, so they sent an investigator to find out what's going on. "Please tell me how many employees you have and how much you pay them," the investigator asked the rancher. The rancher replied, My ranch hand has been with me 3 years, and I pay him $1,200 per week, plus a free room and board. The cook has been here a year, and I pay him $1,000 per week, plus a free room and board. And there is a half-wit. He works 18 hours a day with no days off, doing about 90% of the work around here. He makes about $10 per week and pays for his own room and board, although I buy him a bottle of bourbon every Saturday night. He also sleeps with my wife occasionally. The investigator said, huh? That's the fool I demand to speak with. The rancher replied, You're speaking to him. So a priest is sitting on the bus when a disheveled man comes on, staggers up the aisle, and flops down on the seat next to him. The man smells like a brewery, has lipstick marks all over his neck and face, and a half-drunk bottle of gin sticking out of his pocket. The man proceeds to open his newspaper and starts reading it. After a couple of minutes, the man says to the priest, Say, Father, what causes arthritis? The priest, clearly annoyed, replies, Mister, it's caused by loose living, drinking too much alcohol, going with cheap, wicked women, and not caring about your fellow man. The drunk stares for a second, then says, Wow, I would never have thought that. The priest, thinking about what he has said and feeling he acted in an unchristian manner, nudges the man and says, I did not mean to sound so strong. How long have you had arthritis, my son? The guy turns to the priest and says, Oh, I don't have it, but I'm just reading in the newspaper that the Pope does. A man takes his sick Chihuahua to the veterinarian. They're immediately taken back to a room. Soon a Labrador walks in, sniffs the Chihuahua for 10 minutes, and leaves. Then a cat comes in, stares at the Chihuahua for 10 minutes, and leaves. Finally, the doctor comes in, prescribes some medicine, and hands the man a $250 bill. This must be a mistake, the man says. I've been here only 20 minutes. No mistake, the doctor says. It's $100 for the lab test, $100 for the CAT scan, and $50 for the medicine. A woman went to a lawyer to discuss divorcing her husband. Don't you love him anymore? Asked the lawyer. Oh, I still love him, she replied, but all he ever wants is make love. I can't take it anymore. Instead of divorcing him, why don't you try charging him every time he wants to make love? The lawyer suggested. The exhausted wife decided to give the plan a try. As soon as she walked into the house that night, her husband put the move on her. Not so fast, she replied. From now on, it'll be $10 in the kitchen, $20 in the living room, and $50 in the bedroom. Well then, he said, here's $50. The wife began walking to the bedroom. Hold on, he said, grabbing her hand. That'll be 5 times in the kitchen. A man joins a big corporate empire as a trainee. On his very first day of work, he dials the pantry and shouts into the phone, Get me a coffee, quickly! It turns out that he didn't dial the pantry at all. The voice from the other side responded, You fool! You've dialed the wrong extension. Do you know who you're talking to, Dumbo? No, replied the trainee. It's the CEO of the company, you fool. The trainee pauses for a moment to think about an appropriate response. The trainee shouts back, And do you know who you are talking to, you fool? No, replied the CEO indignantly. Good, replied the trainee, and puts down the phone. The scene is set in a suburban backyard during daylight. In the foreground, there is a large, freshly dug circular hole in the ground. 5 uniformed law enforcement officers are inside and around the hole, actively digging and sifting through the soil with shovels and small sieves, as if searching for something. To the left of the hole, an elderly man with white hair and a beard sits comfortably in a chair, holding a cup and smiling, completely relaxed. He seems unconcerned by the intense digging happening just a few feet away. Behind him, a small sign planted in the ground reads, Papa's Tomatoes. In the background, the yard is fenced, and beyond it are suburban houses with well-kept lawns. A black vehicle marked FBI is parked on the street, partially visible behind the fence. The atmosphere is surreal and humorous, as the serious official activity contrasts sharply with the casual, calm demeanor of the elderly man. Overall, the image gives the impression of a staged or comedic scenario, likely referencing the classic joke about the elderly Italian man planting tomatoes and involving authorities in a misunderstanding. A man was driving down the road when a policeman stopped him. The officer looked in the back of the man's truck and said, "Why are these penguins in your truck?" The man replied, "These are my penguins. They belong to me." "You need to take them to the zoo," the policeman said. The next day, the officer saw the same guy driving down the road. He pulled him over again. He saw the penguins were still in the truck, but they were wearing sunglasses this time. "I thought I told you to take these penguins to the zoo," the officer said. "I did," the man replied. "And today, I'm taking them to the beach." An old, blind Marine accidentally stumbles into an all-girl biker bar, completely unaware of his surroundings. After feeling his way to the bar, he takes a seat and orders a shot of Jack Daniels. As he settles in, he suddenly yells out, "Hey, anyone here want to hear a blonde joke?" The room goes dead silent. From beside him, a deep, authoritative voice calmly responds, "Before you go any further, I think you should know a few things." The voice continues. The bartender is a blonde woman with a baseball bat. The bouncer is also a blonde woman. I'm a blonde, 6-foot-tall, 175-pound black belt in karate. The woman sitting next to me is a blonde professional weightlifter. And the lady on your other side is a blonde professional wrestler. The room stays silent as the Marine pauses to process what he just heard. After a moment, he chuckles softly and says, "You know what? Forget it. I don't feel like explaining the joke 5 times." A man was dining alone in a fancy restaurant, and there was a gorgeous redhead sitting at the next table. He had been checking her out since he sat down, but lacked the nerve to talk with her. Suddenly, she sneezed, and her glass eye came flying out of its socket towards the man. He reflexively reached out, grabbed it out of the air, and handed it back. "Oh my, I am so sorry," the woman said as she popped her eye back in place. "Let me buy your dinner to make it up to you." They enjoyed a wonderful dinner together, and afterwards they went to the theater followed by drinks. They talked, they laughed, she shared her deepest dreams and he shared his. She listened to him with interest. After paying for everything, she asked him if he would like to come to her place for a nightcap and stay for breakfast. They had a wonderful, wonderful time. The next morning, she cooked a gourmet meal with all the trimmings. The guy was amazed. Everything had been so incredible. "You know," he said, "you are the perfect woman." "Are you this nice to every guy you meet?" "No," she replies. "You just happened to catch my eye." A man and woman had been married for more than 60 years. They had shared everything. They had talked about everything. They had kept no secrets from each other, except that the little old woman had a shoebox in the top of her closet that she had cautioned her husband never to open or ask her about. For all of these years, he had never thought about the box. But one day, the little old woman got very sick and the doctor said she would not recover. In trying to sort out their affairs, the little old man took down the shoebox and took it to his wife's bedside. She agreed that it was time that he should know what was in the box. When he opened it, he found 2 crocheted dolls and a stack of money totaling $95,000. He asked her about the contents. "When we were to be married," she said, "my grandmother told me the secret of a happy marriage was to never argue." She told me that if I ever got angry with you, I should just keep quiet and crochet a doll. The little old man was so moved, he had to fight back tears. Only 2 precious dolls were in the box. She had only been angry with him 2 times in all those years of living and loving. He almost burst with happiness. "Honey," he said, "that explains the dolls, but what about all of this money?" "Where did it come from?" "Oh," she said, "that's the money I made from selling the dolls."